Good morning. Today we're going to study a little bit about skulls. This is Alonzo Abogadas, the Capital Naturalist. And again, we're going to go over these various very common skulls here in Virginia so that we can find out a little bit about them. I'll tell you a little bit about each, but in reality you do need to have a guide or something to use it. When you do, this is a typical guide that shows you the different parts of the bones and so forth. And more importantly, some of them have a certain formula. The way that the formula goes, it actually starts with the incisors, then the canines, and there'll be numbers right next to it. So, for example, if it's 3/3 here for a pig, it'll be 3 on top and 3 on the bottom, and then canines versus premolars and then molars. Sometimes it's difficult to tell. And again, some of the weaknesses is, of course, when you do something this, it's assuming it's an adult animal, you have all the teeth, and that's rarely the case. And it doesn't count for any genetic differences, but still, you can tell a lot about skulls. And so we're going to start on skulls and tell you a little bit about each of them and some ways of telling them apart. So the first skull we're going to talk about is a deer skull, and I can tell it's a deer skull even if it's lost its antlers or if it doesn't have antlers. If it's again a doe, one thing you can see it's flat on the top, and very interestingly, deer on the top do not have front teeth, at least for whitetail deer own. They're missing the top teeth. This is not something that's supposed to have. They always miss this. Instead, they rip off food, and you can see on their bottom jaw, you can see how they rip the food out. It is again an herbivore, so its teeth are built. This is for breaking it off. There are no canines, of course. Instead, what it has is all of these little chewing teeth to break down the food material. So again, you can usually tell again by the size. You can see compared to me and the shape, lack of the nose, and even if it doesn't have horns, lacking of front teeth, this is a white-tailed deer. So here we're going to talk about actually rodents, and this is the largest of our North American rodents. This right here is a beaver. One of the big things about rodents is these ever-growing front teeth. In most of them, in fact, almost all of them except one that I'll show you, they're built with very strong an animal. It's usually very colored enamel. This it breaks off so that the front is covered by enamel, so that is much harder than the back. So it's constantly sharpening it and constantly it's constantly growing. So the fact that they continuously grow their whole life. So this right here is a beaver skull. The big, the colorful front teeth, the sheer size of it. This is the largest of them. Again, they don't have any canines or anything like that. They're built again, as you would think for a beaver, these big front teeth to be able to chew on and chew on wood and so forth to break them down. This is the largest, again, of all of our rodents here in North America, the common beaver. Big thing about rodents, again, ever-growing teeth. Look for the colored animal in almost all of them. So I mentioned before the beaver, and again how almost all rodents have these ever-growing front teeth, and the strong enamel give them colored teeth, give them the colorful teeth. This is one of the exceptions that we have locally. This is a groundhog, and groundhogs again have this very flat face. It's kind of flat between the eyes and so forth. Again, very much smaller, but again very typical. Looks like the regular rodent. You could have the big front teeth that are ever growing. But notice, these do not have the white enamel. This is an animal, again, as you can see, it is an herbivore. It does chew on plants and so forth, but the big difference is this one does not have as fast growing teeth and so forth. It does not have the enamel. It doesn't need to be that way. So again, this is, again, a groundhog skull. Again, another big thing is they have this flat little thing in the middle. It's kind of hard to see it, don't know if you can tell, but again, it's sunk in the middle. Plus, again, it's the only common rodent that we have that does not have the colorful enameled teeth. Groundhog. So this is one of the more common of all of our mammals that we find around here. Another rodent. This is a gray squirrel. Again, gray squirrels, they are rodents, so they have the big pronounced front teeth that you can see on the side that come out like that. And on this, you will see, again, since it chews on nuts and things like that, it has very colorful teeth. And again, they're colorful in the front, white in the back. The enamel, of course, and the ever-growing, the sharpness that they have in order to chew through nuts and things like that. So this, again, depending on its size and so forth, this right here, and as you can see how big it is, this is a gray squirrel. So what we have here is a typical lagomorph skull. Lagomorphs, again, are the rabbits, the hares, things like that. They're very interesting. Again, it does look a lot like the regular rabbit that you see. The big difference you can always tell lagomorphs from anything else is if I were to open this apart, you will see here on the top, it doesn't just have two top things, it's got four of them. So in reality, it's got a double front teeth, as it were, to bite off food. Again, there's the ones in the front, again, typically growing type of things, and one right here, I don't know if you can see, in the back. And that is typical of all rabbits and so forth. So again, this is a rabbit skull. This one's from a cottontail, our most common rabbit that we have. And the big thing to look for is the double front teeth. Another very common skull to find are raccoon skulls. Again, they tend to have this kind of a round shape to them. They are, again, omnivores, but they have very, very pointed teeth and so forth, very pronounced canines, you can see here. They're built and they can eat just about anything. But again, this is a raccoon skull. These are incredibly common. So when you find one, the usual saying is, oh, it's going to be a raccoon. And believe it or not, most of the time it is. There are so many of them around here. Again, big canines on the side, big round head to them. This is, again, a raccoon skull. So this right here is a bear skull. Bears are omnivores. They chew on all sorts of things. Unfortunately, this you can't really see its teeth. This is a much older skull. But again, it is a bear. It's huge, of course. Even young ones are kind of large. It does have these multiple different size teeth to be able to chew on all sorts of different kinds of things. The wide expanse. Again, this is an adult black bear. And again, this is a bear skull. So this is a fox skull. This is a red fox skull. Again, it is a predator, although they do eat a ton of other things too. They scavenge and of course eat fruits and stuff. But again, they do have the pronounced canine teeth that you see here. They're built for cutting. Even their side teeth are a little bit of a flattened head as opposed to, you know, a dog, but still very much dog-like because it is a canine and so forth. This right here is a red fox. So we're going to move on to carnivores. Carne meaning they eat meat. Again, that means that they have very long canines on them. This right here is a coyote skull. Coyote skulls are a little different from, it's difficult to tell them apart sometimes. I mean, the same size, and many of our coyotes have a good percentage of dog in them. But they tend to have a rounded side to them. Again, the typical coyote has these very long canines that they use for pulling down prey and for scavenging as well. Very strong jaws. You can see here, it's built for cutting as well as chewing. Again, this is a coyote skull. That's the largest of our canines that we have locally. So these are both cat skulls. Cats tend to have a very rounded head, big oculars, again, for their sharp night vision and so forth. This is a regular house cat. It's much smaller, but again, it is a carnivore. Notice the big canines, which is typical of all the cats, and the very sharp teeth, because this guy, unlike the foxes and stuff like that, eat pretty much just meat. This is a bobcat. Now again, this is much larger. It does have the big sharp teeth, as you can see here, built for hunting and so forth. But again, very similar to a regular cat, except for the size. And it is important, an adult at least, to be able to tell the size by checking it out. And again, but typical of cat skulls, very rounded top to them. This, again, house cat. This is a bobcat. So here we have the only North American marsupial. This right here is an opossum, an adult. It's very specialized in again, it is a marsupial. It has the shortest gestation period. Think of all of our regular sized animals. I mean, it's not like a tiny animal, but 13 days is the gestation period. It's very unique because it has more teeth, 50 more than any other animal we have, but even the teeth are missing. They're very sharp teeth. You can see the canines and so forth. But what really makes this distinctive is the sagittal crest that's just on the top that rolls right down the side. It's very distinct. You can see it. So that makes it that of all the mammals, if you can pick up the skull by the back of its head like this, it's got to be an opossum. A North American, Native American Indian word here from Algonquian Indians, which means white animal. But again, North American possum, very interesting, and the only one that has the sagittal crest that you can just pick it up by the back of the crest. More teeth than any other mammal. The North American or the Virginia opossum.